The villagers had seen stray dogs do strange things before, but nothing like this. The first time someone spotted her, the wild mother dog was trotting through the tall grass at dawn, ribs showing through her thin coat, eyes sharp and alert. But she wasn't alone. Dangling from her mouth, held as gently as a fragile treasure, was a tiny leopard cub, no bigger than a loaf of bread at its teeth. First, the villager who saw it froze. At a leopard cub in a dog's jaws? He expected to hear a crunch of bone, a cry of pain, something terrible. But what happened next made his heart stop. The dog lowered the cub to the ground with the tenderness of a mother placing down her own newborn. She nudged him closer, circled him, and then lay beside him, wrapping her thin body around his spotted fur as if shielding him from the world. The villager gasped and ran back toward the settlement, but he didn't. No, nobody knew what brought the dog and the cub together, or what terrifying event had led to the most unlikely relationship anyone had ever seen. Before the truth comes out, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe so you never miss another powerful story like this one. That the stray dog had no name. People simply called her Mama, because despite living in the wild, she'd raised litter after litter of puppies. She stole scraps, hunted rats, and dug holes under abandoned huts for warmth. She wasn't aggressive, but she didn't trust humans either. Life had taught her that trust didn't come for free. Mama had given birth 3 weeks earlier. 3 tiny puppies. 1 brown, 1 black, 1 white. Her whole world. But the forest surrounding the village wasn't kind. It belonged to the predators who stalked silently through the dusk and dawn. And one early morning, too early for the villagers to hear, too early for Mama to find help, something came into her den. Something huge, something spotted. A leopard. She had no chance. Mama fought. She lunged. She bit. She barked, her body flying between the leopard's jaws and her puppies. She managed to snatch 1 puppy away before the leopard lifted the other 2 in its jaws and disappeared into the brush. She was left bleeding, shaking, cradling 1 remaining pup who whimpered against her chest. The villagers heard nothing. The world kept moving. The sun rose like it always did, but Mama knew her babies were gone. For 2 days, she carried her last remaining pup everywhere, never letting him leave her sight. But her wounds became infected. Fever set in, and on the 3rd day, when she woke up, her last puppy wasn't breathing. She nudged him. Once, twice. Again, she whimpered, pawed him, licked him, but he didn't move, and something inside Mama broke. She curled around the little lifeless body, refusing to leave him for hours. The villagers saw her lying there and assumed her puppy was sleeping. Nobody knew he was already gone. Nobody saw Mama's heart breaking. Nobody saw her losing everything. But the forest changes quickly. 2 days after losing her last puppy, a storm rolled in. Hard rain, thundering skies, wind bending the trees until they creaked. Mama had taken shelter under a fallen log. That's when she heard it. A thin cry. Faint, distant, weak. Not a puppy's cry. Something else. Mama froze for a second, head tilting, ears twitching through the wind. She crawled out from the log, paws sinking into mud. The sound came again, higher pitched, sharp, desperate. Her instincts took over. A crying baby is a crying baby, no matter the species. She followed the sound through the trees until she reached a hollow at the base of a fallen fig tree. Inside, curled against the cold wood, was a tiny spotted cub, completely alone. A leopard baby. Mama's eyes widened. She smelled the air, leopard scent, but faint. No adult nearby, no danger. The cub cried again, weakly, kicking his tiny legs. Mama stepped closer. She sniffed him. The cub smelled like rain, dirt, and confusion. Alone, hungry, not even strong enough to lift his head. Mama paced once, twice, 3 times. Her instincts roared inside her. This was the species that had taken her own babies. The species that had ripped her life apart. She lowered her head slowly. The cub nuzzled her muzzle, searching for warmth. Mama froze. Then, something happened that nobody expected. Not even nature. The mother inside her, the mother who had lost everything, took over. She gently grabbed the cub by the scruff, not to hurt him, but to carry him, and she ran. Through the rain, through the mud, through the brush. She carried the cub all the way back to her den, the same place where she had once kept her puppies safe. She placed the cub inside, curled her body around him, and cleaned the mud from his fur. He stopped crying. He fell asleep against her chest, and Mama finally closed her eyes, not in grief this time, but in fragile, trembling peace. For the next 2 days, villagers occasionally saw Mama carrying the leopard cub in her mouth, relocating him when the den got too wet, too cold, or too exposed. At first, they laughed. A dog raising a leopard? Impossible. But when more and more people saw it, laughter turned into disbelief. The forest guards were alerted. Animal rescue workers contacted. Nobody could understand it. Nobody knew what would happen when the cub grew stronger, or when the mother leopard came back, or if this strange relationship would end in tragedy. But Mama didn't think of the future. She thought only of survival. Every morning, she hunted small rodents. She brought back scraps. She begged from villagers. She ate less so the cub could eat more. She curled around him at night, warming him with her own body heat. And the cub bonded with her, blindly, completely, the way only newborns can. On the 5th day, the unbelievable happened that a wildlife ranger spotted her again while making his routine rounds. But this time, Mama wasn't alone in the grass. The cub wasn't alone either. Someone was watching them. High above, perched on a low branch of an acacia tree, eyes glowing gold, muscles tense, tail twitching like a metronome marking the seconds. The mother leopard had returned. The ranger didn't move, that he didn't breathe, that he knew nature didn't forgive mistakes. Mama didn't see the leopard at first. She was too busy nudging the cub, encouraging him to walk, growl, explore. The cub tried to pounce on her paw, clumsy and adorable. Mama barked softly, as if telling him to be careful. The leopard's tail swished once, twice, 3 times. Then she climbed. Down, silent, deadly. A ghost moving through grass. The ranger's fingers tightened around his binoculars. What happened next made him forget every rule, every training, every moment of logic he ever learned in his life. The mother leopard approached Mama from behind. Mama turned. Their eyes met, and instead of attacking, instead of lunging, instead of tearing apart the dog who had taken her cub, the leopard froze. Her nose lifted. She sniffed the air. Her cub's scent was all over Mama. Mama didn't back away. She stood tall, tail down, body trembling but protective. She blocked the cub with her body. Even from his own mother. One soft growl escaped the leopard's throat. Not a warning, not a threat. A question. Mama lowered her head, slowly. She nudged the cub toward the leopard. The cub trotted, wobbly, curious, innocent, straight into his mother's paws. The leopard sniffed him wildly, frantically, as if counting every breath he had taken while she was gone. Then she licked his head, his back, his tiny tail, purring with the deep, rumbling sound only a big cat can make. Mama watched. The leopard looked at Mama again, not with anger, not with hatred, but with something the ranger couldn't identify. Recognition? Acknowledgement? Respect? Whatever it was something ancient, something older than instinct. The leopard approached Mama. Mama stiffened, but didn't run. The leopard leaned forward and gently touched her forehead against Mama's. A gesture of thanks. A gesture of peace. A gesture nobody in the wild had ever documented before. Then the leopard picked up her cub. The ranger thought it was over, but it wasn't. The most unbelievable part hadn't happened yet. Instead of disappearing into the forest with her baby, the leopard took 3 steps, stopped, turned, and placed her cub back down on the ground, right between herself and Mama. The cub looked from his leopard mother to his dog mother, confused but happy, and for the next few minutes, the 3 of them existed together, not enemies, not rivals, but like a family. The ranger recorded everything with shaking hands, tears stinging his eyes. But as the sun began to set over the savannah, shadows stretching long and golden, something happened that made him choke back a gasp. The leopard stepped aside. As if inviting Mama to follow. As if asking her to come with them. And Mama actually took a step forward, but then she stopped. She looked back toward the village, the only home she knew. She looked toward the forest, the unknown world that the cub belonged to. Then she looked at the leopard, her cub, the life she had saved, and she made a decision that would break the ranger's heart into 1,000 pieces. Mama stood there, one paw lifted, suspended in the space between 2 worlds. Behind her lay the village, scarred memories. Familiar scents, the ghosts of puppies she couldn't save that in front of her stood the forest, dangerous, wild, unpredictable. A place where a dog like her had no guarantee of survival. A place ruled by instincts she didn't belong to. And between those two worlds sat the leopard cub, looking up at her with bright, trusting eyes. Eyes that reminded her of every heartbeat she had lost. The mother leopard waited silently, her tail brushing the ground in a slow rhythm. She wasn't rushing Mama. She wasn't threatening her. She was simply allowing a choice to be made. It was a moment suspended in the stillness of dusk, a moment that would change everything. The cub gave a small, excited chirp, the sound baby leopards make when they want attention. He trotted in a wobbling line between Mama and his mother, bumping his tiny head into Mama's leg. Mama leaned down and licked the top of his head. Just once. Soft. Final. The cub purred. And that was when Mama stepped back, point one paw. Then another. She didn't run. She didn't panic. She simply moved backward, slowly, as if each step carried the weight of a goodbye. She didn't know how to speak. The leopard watched her carefully. The cub watched her curiously. Mama stopped when she reached the edge of the grass. The point where forest became village. Where instinct met memory. The ranger held his breath as he watched the dog's body tremble. Not from fear, but from something deeper. Something raw and painful. Then, finally, Mama bowed her head. The leopard, the impossible bond that fate had woven between them. The leopard picked up her cub. This time, she didn't hesitate. She melted into the foliage, her tail flicking once in silent farewell, and Mama was left alone. The ranger had never seen an animal look so heartbreakingly human in its sadness. Not even in rescues, not even in losses. There was something ancient in Mama's eyes. Something that understood exactly what she had given up. She turned away slowly and walked back toward the village, her paws dragged in the dirt. Her tail hung low, but she didn't look back. Not once. The villagers gathered around when the ranger returned. The moment he told them what he saw, silence spread through the crowd like a wave. Shock, disbelief, awe, it all mixed in the air. A dog saved a leopard cub? One woman whispered. No. The ranger corrected softly. A mother did. They didn't understand the weight of his words. Not yet, because the unbelievable part of the story wasn't finished. Over the next few days, Mama stayed near the village. She didn't eat much. She slept curled into a tight ball, sometimes shivering even when the air was warm. She wandered along the paths she used to walk with her puppies, sniffing the air as if searching for something familiar in a world that had changed too fast. The villagers brought her food and water. Someone even built a small wooden shelter for her. They felt guilty for not helping sooner, for not realizing the pain she had been carrying. But Mama didn't seem interested in their offerings. She was waiting. For what? Nobody knew. Until the night the forest trembled. It was nearly midnight when the howling began. Deep, guttural sounds of distress echoing across the savannah. Dogs in the village barked. Cattle stirred. Birds burst from the trees in frantic clouds. The ranger grabbed his flashlight and ran. Halfway down the path to the forest, he stopped dead. A shadow moved between the trees, huge, silent, golden eyes flashing in the beam of his light. The mother leopard, but something was wrong, very wrong. The leopard staggered. Her flank was bleeding heavily. Her breath came in ragged, desperate gasps, and in her jaws, barely clinging to life, hung the cub. The ranger stumbled back, terrified that he had no weapon, no backup, no plan. The leopard dropped the cub gently onto the ground and collapsed beside him, her massive body shaking violently. Blood soaked the dirt beneath her. She lifted her head weakly, eyes locking onto something behind the ranger. He turned. Mama stood in the darkness, watching. The ranger felt the hairs rise on the back of his neck. The leopard tried to stand, but her legs failed. She let out a low, trembling rumble, a sound filled with pain and warning. But Mama didn't move. She approached slowly, ears flat, head low, tail tucked. The ranger held his breath, expecting an attack, expecting the leopard to lash out. Instead, the leopard buried her head into the ground and let out a sound the ranger had never heard before. A whimper, a plea, a mother asking another mother for help. Mama stepped forward. The leopard closed her eyes. She didn't fight that didn't resist, that didn't defend her cub. She simply breathed one last exhausted breath and nudged her baby forward with her muzzle before collapsing fully onto her side. Mama sniffed the cub anxiously that he was hurt, but alive. She sniffed the leopard next. The ranger saw something break inside her in that moment. Something heavy, something devastating. The leopard wasn't dead, but she was dying, badly wounded by something far bigger, far stronger. Hyenas, perhaps, or a rogue male, or a territorial clash with another predator. Whatever it was, the leopard had dragged herself all the way to the village outskirts, not to hunt, not to attack, not to escape danger, but to bring her cub back to the only creature she trusted, the dog who had saved him once, the dog she knew would save him again. The ranger dropped to his knees beside Mama. "We can't leave them here," he whispered, his voice shaking that he lifted the cub gently. Mama pressed her nose into the cub's fur as if checking that he was truly alive. Her tail wagged once, a weak, faint wag, but a wag nonetheless. The leopard watched with half-closed eyes. She was fading, fast. The ranger placed the cub inside his jacket and turned to Mama. "Come," he whispered. "He needs you." Mama hesitated only a second. Then she followed him. The ranger radioed the wildlife rescue unit as he ran. 10 minutes later, a team arrived with flashlights and emergency kits. They immediately treated the cub, cleaning the small wounds, warming him, giving him fluids. Mama hovered over them the entire time, pacing anxiously, her tail flicking like she was counting every second. But when they approached the mother leopard, Mama suddenly growled, low, deep, warning. Not at the rescuers, at the world, at fate, at the thing that had dared to hurt the cub's mother. The rescue team backed away, giving Mama space. They knew instinct when they saw it. For 20 long minutes, the leopard fought for breath, fought to stay conscious, fought to look up at her cub again. And when she finally lifted her head, the ranger realized something that would haunt him forever. The leopard wasn't looking at her cub. She was looking at Mama.as. If saying thank you.as, if saying goodbye.as, if asking for something no mother should ever have to ask. Mama stepped close. The leopard touched her nose to Mama's face, softly, weakly, tenderly. And then she stopped breathing. The cub let out a small cry. Mama curled her body around him instantly, shielding him from the night, from the cold, from the pain, from the truth. The rescue team bowed their heads. The ranger wiped his eyes, and Mama, once again, became a mother to a child that wasn't her own. Over the next few days, the story swept through the village, then the district, then the entire country. Wildlife officials arrived with cameras and notebooks, but Mama ignored them all. She had work to do. She had a cub to raise. She cleaned him, fed him scraps, kept him warm, barked at anyone who came too close. The cub followed her everywhere, stumbling over her paws, curling into her fur, sleeping with his spotted head buried under her neck. Some said fate was cruel. Others said fate was wise. But everyone agreed on one thing. Mama had been chosen. Animals are not supposed to adopt across species. They are not supposed to risk their lives for babies that aren't theirs. They are not supposed to break the rules of survival. But Mama had broken every rule, and she wasn't finished breaking them yet. On the 7th morning, something incredible happened. The cub stood on wobbly legs, looked at Mama, and let out a tiny, imperfect bark. The ranger dropped his coffee. The villagers gasped. Mama froze. The cub barked again. A spotted leopard cub, trying to speak dog. Mama nudged him gently with her nose, overwhelmed. The cub purred in response, rubbing his face against her chest. That he wasn't just imitating her, he was choosing her. Days turned into weeks. Mama taught the cub how to walk, where to hide, how to play, how to find food, how to survive. Not like a leopard, but like a creature of both worlds. A child shaped by two mothers. One who gave him life, and one who saved it. Twice. But fate wasn't done yet, because several weeks later, as the cub grew stronger and bolder, the wildlife authorities made a difficult decision. They needed to relocate him to a protected sanctuary before he grew too big, before nature reclaimed him, before instinct overpowered innocence. The cub was a leopard. A wild animal. He didn't belong in a village. He belonged in the forest. Mama didn't know this. Not yet. She was too busy licking the cub's forehead, too busy watching him stumble after butterflies, too busy being the mother she had always been meant to be. When the Jeep arrived, Mama barked, loud and fierce. The cub jumped into her side, frightened. The ranger knelt beside her. "Mama," he whispered, "we're not taking him away from you. We're taking him somewhere safe." Mama didn't understand, but the cub did. Somehow, he knew. He walked to the ranger, sniffed his hand, then looked back at Mama. Mama stepped forward. She touched her nose to his, the same way the leopard had, the same way mothers do when words don't exist. The cub purred. Mama whimpered. The ranger swallowed hard. Then, the cub climbed into the crate. Mama didn't bark. She didn't protest. She didn't fight. She placed one paw on the crate, pressing it gently, as if giving her final blessing. The ranger closed the door, and Mama sat down beside the crate, refusing to move until the Jeep began to drive away. The villagers watched as the Jeep disappeared into the forest road. Mama stayed there long after it was gone, staring into the trees with quiet eyes, eyes that held a lifetime of loss and love. The ranger walked over and sat beside her. "You saved him," he whispered. "Twice. He'll grow up because of you. He'll live because of you." Mama didn't look at him, but her tail moved. One small, soft wag, the only sign she gave that she understood. 3 months later, the ranger visited the sanctuary. The cub, no longer tiny, now strong and confident, ran across the enclosure toward him. Then he stopped. He turned his head to the forest, ears perked, eyes bright. The ranger followed his gaze, and his breath caught the edge of the trees. Stood Mama, thin, dirty, tired, but alive. The cub let out a sound, half purr, half barked. Mama's tail wagged, and against all logic, all instinct, all rules of nature, the cub bounded toward her. The sanctuary staff froze. The cub reached Mama and pressed his spotted head into her chest. She licked him once, just once, soft, final. This time, she didn't stay. She turned around, walked back into the forest, and vanished. The ranger wiped his eyes. She had come not to reclaim him, but to make sure he was safe, to TOC that he had truly found a home. And then she let him go. The cub watched the forest long after she disappeared. Then he turned and walked toward his new life, because Mama had taught him the greatest lesson of all, that love transcends blood, species, and instinct. Sometimes a mother is not the one who gives you life, but the one who saves it. If this story moved you, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more powerful stories like this one.